Hello and welcome to Tech This Week, the big story from the world of technology businesses in India. This week is SoftBank and its talks to invest in several startups this year. It is said to be in talks to back a B2B marketplace of business with $150 million checks and Flipkart with $700 million checks. These and many more investments to the tune of $4 billion or more lined up by the Japan-based venture capital firm will likely usher in the next batch of unicorns in India's 2021, with the first batch being primarily driven by Tiger Global. Late last month, SoftBank already led a $250 million investment into banking technology startup Zeta, turning it into a unicorn. Let's move on to the other top headlines of the week. The week saw continued dialogue between the Indian government and the likes of WhatsApp, its parent company Facebook, Twitter, and Google negotiate details of the new IT rules in the country, which affects them all. It is still not clear if all the players are in full compliance or in partial compliance of the rules. With the whole negotiations for amendments having moved to Delhi High Court, however, as per latest findings, Twitter and WhatsApp both have finally enlisted external senior advocates as their respective chief grievance officers, one of the main requirements of the new laws. Meanwhile, search engine giant Google has had to clarify to a Delhi High Court bench that it must be exempt from being labeled a social media intermediary as it is merely a search engine or an intermediary, but not a significant social media intermediary as classified under the new rules. Moving on, hyperlocal logistics startup Dunzo Digital on Tuesday said it is leading a Med-Air consortium along with industry experts to conduct experimental BVLOS or below visual line of sight drone delivery flights for the medicine from the sky project. This project aims to deliver medical supplies in different districts of the state of Telangana. Google-backed Dunzo said in a statement. Since January 2021, Dunzo claims to have witnessed a growth of 350% in medicine orders alone. And between March 2021 and May 2021, its platform has facilitated deliveries of over 20,000 orders to hospitals. This, coupled with the delivery of home-cooked meals, oximeters, and other medical aid, has led to a growth of 204% in Dunzo's pickup and drop orders, the company said in a statement. Currently, the company is present in Bangalore. The company's services are present in Bengaluru, Pune, Delhi, Gurugram, Hyderabad, Chennai, Mumbai, and Jaipur, and Dunzo is planning to expand operations to 20 cities by 2022. Next up, a home services company, Urban Company, has closed its ongoing growth round of funding, dubbed as Series F, at $255 billion. Led by new investors Proteus Ventures, Dragoneer Investment Group, and Wellington Management, the round values the Gurugram-based company at $2.1 billion. The company will invest in innovation, training, product development, enhanced quality control, and safety measures for partners and consumers from the current infusion. It will also increase its presence to 100 top cities in India and expand to international markets. At present, it's operational in 35 cities across India, United Arab Emirates, Singapore, Australia, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Let's dig deeper with the co-founder and CTO, Raghav Chandra. Hi, Raghav. Thank you for joining us on Tech This Week.
Hey, Supriya.
We'll quickly dive right in and, can you tell us a bit on what the product development and the training areas and the innovation whether the statement talks about when it comes to the new investments usage at Urban Company?
Yes. So I think a lot of our focus is going to go into building our core capabilities internally. We've, just to give you a sense of how our company functions, our topmost North Star metric is consumer experience, or people might call that NPS. And everything derives from that. We believe growth, repeat, whatever, all those fancy other terms all derive from us focusing on the core value chain. So if you kind of look at investments, they break in a very similar fashion. Investments start off with the core promise of how do we enhance quality. right? So what does this mean? It starts off with, let's get the top supply pool, right? The top professionals. Now the interesting thing is this, right? It's not a market where you can go and just get these top professionals, right? In a country like India, the more and more professionals we get, the harder and harder it is to get the best set of professionals. So our problem statement is actually how do we create a high quality supply pool, right? How do we do training for every city, for every category? How do we create certification training? How do we do it on the app so that it's distributed and scalable, right? And this is one huge challenge which we have in front of us. The other big challenge is, now that we have great professionals, how do we make sure our quality when we service deliver is spot on, right? It's predictably high, right? We are known to be a company of excellence, right? And that's where there is a whole bunch of investments in time management of professionals, in the logistics tech, in the service delivery tech. How do we raise the right kind of invoice? How do we check for fleecing using all kinds of data science and stuff like that, right? And the third big investment area, Supriya, is the retail experience. Now that we've got a good, if we're able to do all of this well, right? The other part of our services is the first time most consumers actually leveraging online to book and buy services at home. How do we create a fantastic retail experience for them? And it breaks into, how do we improve the selection? How do we go deeper for tier 2 India? There'll be a different set of selection, right? How do we kind of make it more and more affordable? How do we make it easy for customers to discover what they want? Bring in recommendations, personalizations. Can we position ourselves from where we are right now to be literally your concierge for home? Can we be your home manager? Right? And that's, I think, broadly how we look at our investments in business from an angle of tech.
Great, that sounds great. Now, with the whole COVID situation out and about, I'm sure the many learnings within your product and engineering teams, some of which are very well reflected in your blog online, the UC blog online, to do with how you really manage the whole hyper local nature of your services at a time when government itself, was out and about and trying to get the containment zones right on a regular basis. So can you take us through a few of those learnings from then, and how that goes on to shape the way that you think about your product in the near future?
Yeah, I think last year by and large has been a tough year for everyone, but the one silver lining, at least as an internal company, has acted as a great forcing function, because when nothing else was available in terms of operations, we had to just go solely tech. Right, and I'll maybe speak about just top 2-3 examples which come to my mind. I could spend a whole day otherwise. I think, for example, one thing which we did was our whole training shifted to completely online and tech-based. Right, typically every city category we have trainers. Right, it's like hardcore training. We're not talking about like superficial stuff. And we had to innovate. In a matter of 1 month, we went, all training centers became digital. Right, and it was wonderful. Right, a lot of innovation and tech had to be built on top to run classes, to structure curriculums, and so on and so forth, right? Another really interesting one, and I think the blog which you're reading to, is how did we manage logistics, right? Last year was this whole complex math every day on changing containment zones, right? You didn't even know, a building could be a containment zone, but everything around it could be fine, right? And as a company, we're also responsible for the livelihoods of our partners, because if they go without pay, 1 month of pay loss for partners is highly detrimental. Right? So we have to make sure that we can optimize on the business being up wherever possible. And there we use a lot of, geofencing, for example, every day to make sure business is on where we can, off where we don't have to be. My favorite was it forced us to focus. We've always been a company which is cared about hygiene and safety, and that's what our specialty is. But last year became all about this, right? And it was essential. Like, we can't have people come into our house without wearing masks and stuff. And the way we did this was leveraging all kinds of, data science, AI algorithms to make sure people have masks, people have taken temperature checks in the morning. I think this helped us create and do ops in a very decentralized, automated fashion. These are some of the things which came from this pandemic being a forcing function for our org.
Yeah, when you're connecting the dots, it makes it look all very enthusiastic, but I'm sure it was quite a scene back in the day. Again, thank you so much for sharing your time and thoughts with us. Shifting gears, the Reserve Bank of India Monday evening notified all commercial and cooperative banks, payment banks, small finance banks, NBFCs and payment system providers against using its 2018 circular on a cryptocurrency ban in the country. RBI Chief General Manager Shri Mohan Yadav, however, said the banks as well as other entities may continue to carry due diligence processes in line with regulations governing standards for know your customer, anti-money laundering, combating of finance, terrorism, and obligations of regulated entities under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act 2002. In addition to ensuring compliance with relevant provisions under the Foreign Exchange Management Act, FEMA Act, for overseas remittances. This came in the backdrop of media reports citing these letters from banks such as HDFC Bank and ICICI Bank, warning customers to not indulge in cryptocurrency transactions using their bank accounts, and thereby facing account closures as a possible repercussion of that. Since then, it's again been reported that HDFC sent across a new circular to all its customers, taking back the previous one. Moving on, Walmart-owned payments app PhonePe proposed acquisition of Indus OS sunk deeper into a legal quagmire as the latter's existing investor, Apple Global, reportedly filed a petition in a Singapore court against the fintech firm. In response, Indus OS filed a countersuit against its investors. PhonePe was in track to buy a 32% stake in Indus OS at a valuation of $60 million US. However, technology firm Apple Global said that it has been a long-term investor in Indus OS's parent company, which is OS Labs, having invested over $20 million US, which valued the content discovery platform at $19 million US. Shifting gears back to funding rounds, and there have been many this week, trust you. Ahead of its proposed public offering, logistics company Delhivery raised $277 million from a group of investors led by US investment firm Fidelity. The Delhi-based company competes with the likes of Alibaba-backed Expressbees and Warburg-Pincus-backed Ecom Express. Moving on, Bangalore-based IT services major Infosys was caught on the wrong side of the law with its senior corporate counsel and senior principal of corporate accounting figuring their names as accused parties of an insider trading investigations of markets regulator SEBI. A total of 8 accused parties had traded in the script of Infosys while in possession of unpublished and hence sensitive information related to the company's financial results for the first quarter of the fiscal ended March 2021. Surprisingly, the investigation found direct connections and via frequent telephonic conversations and fund transactions. French information technology services company Capgemini has deployed a new 5G enabling solution with the help of Ericsson in its 5G lab in India. Now, Capgemini India's CEO Ashwin Yardi said in a statement that this 5G lab will support our global clients and cater to 4 main categories, namely smart factories, smart utilities, smart city, and smart retail. Moving on, Mumbai-based downstream energy and petrochemicals company Nayara Energy has picked Hughes Communications India, which is a subsidiary of global satellite network solutions provider Hughes Network Systems, for a satellite network connecting its 3,500 retail outlets. Hughes Network, founded in 1971, is a Maryland, United States-based satellite and multi-transport technologies provider. Now, this new contract is for a term of 5 years, and Hughes will deploy its Hughes-On solution, which the company claimed will make Nayara the largest satellite-based network in the retail petroleum sector. And with that, it's a wrap on this episode of Tech This Week. Log into techcircle.in for more news and updates. Goodbye. Stay safe. Take care.